Hey, everybody. Pastor Scott here at the Stanton First Church of God. Couple of days ago, I sent an email out to all of you um, with this attachment, the Spiritual Growth Planner. So hopefully, you have printed this off or you took a notebook and you're able to jot down and go through this. Um, for those of you who may not have received this, don't worry, it's going to be attached in this follow-up email that I'm going to be sending out this morning. So then that way you can kind of go through it if somehow it got lost in the mail or you just didn't really receive it or you couldn't download it for whatever the case may be. So let's talk about Spiritual Growth Planner, what this is and how to navigate through it. So what the Spiritual Growth Planner is really it's to help you do an inventory of your spiritual longings. Where do you want to see your faith in God increase? And kind of what the disciplines do when we're exercising our faith is it helps us to be able to connect with God and practice these disciplines. But not only that, but also how can we connect to our neighbors better? You know, if we think about the great commandments that Jesus preaches on, it's to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. So when we go through these disciplines, there's going to be inward disciplines, there's going to be outward disciplines, and then there'll be corporate disciplines, which would be the ones that corporate disciplines would be ones that we would do together. Things like worship and celebration, which hopefully those will be something that will be happening in the near future once the coronavirus is gone, or at least we're able to, be able to meet, even if it's still vaguely present in our world today. So, with that being said, hopefully you've read this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of do just a quick sample example of how to navigate through this planner. So, in case if you're stuck or you're like, I don't understand what to do, here's what you do. So you go ahead and you just read through this, and then you'll get to this point right here where there's like a chart. And then, of course, there's the acronym worship, which stands for worship the Trinity, open yourself to God, relinquish the false self and idols of your heart, share your life, hear God's word, incarnate the love of Christ, and pray your life. So when you are navigating through this, and again, Ms. Calhoun kind of says like, oh, if you're a linear thinker, here's how you can navigate through this. If you're a new disciple, here's how you do this. If you're not understanding, trying to help you on how to tackle this. So when you look at this, ask yourself, what is the desire of my heart? Where When it comes to, for example, like the first one, worship the Trinity, how can I worship God better? Is there a deep longing in my heart? Is there a desperation in my heart where I really feel that I need um, to be able to worship God more? So when you think about that aspect, take a moment, pray over that. And and the reality is maybe there may be nothing that comes to your head or to your heart right now. You're just like, you know, right now I don't have anything. Don't feel like you have to force yourself to put things. Like if you look at kind of the sample one, worship the Trinity, it's blank. There's nothing there. Um, so because at my time of prayer, as I'm praying through this, there wasn't anything that popped up. So it's like, well, I'm not going to just force something in there if it's not going to be entirely true. Because again, I want to be very transparent and I want to be very authentic with the Lord as I'm seeking Him on, how can I grow in my faith in Him? So also on here, she says, underline the word that connects with you. And what would you like to see happen in your life of worship? So name longing, desperations, things that are up to the surface. So, and again, I'll hold this up. So there's this one, R, relinquish the false self and idols of your heart. I underline relinquish. And just kind of a quick note, I just put to always have the mentality to know I am beloved by God. So, that's, and if I want to go a little bit deeper than that, if I really want to kind of write out, I always feel like that I'm failing God, or whatever the case may be, you can really go in depth, especially of just laying it all out on the table before the Lord as you're going through this inventory. And then, of course, right here, hear God's word, I underlined here. And again, I put to listen to God's voice. Now, do you have to underline something to write something in the blank? Absolutely not. Those were just keywords that just popped up to me. So that's why I underlined them. So, that's just kind of an example. You don't have to fill out every space. Just fill out the ones that you feel that are really resonating with you right now at this moment. So then after that, we then go to kind of down to the nitty gritty, where, you have a couple titles like right here. It says open myself to God. And then there's a couple questions to kind of get you thinking. Now, I know Calhoun says, just go straight to the one that resonates with you. So for me, I should go to the relinquishing of the false self and idols of your heart and really go there. That's important because you want to make sure that, if that's something that's fresh on your mind, tackle that first. Don't feel like you have to go in order. But what I would recommend is to kind of do all of them, just so that way you can kind of see like, oh, even though nothing really came up on worship the Trinity, after filling out the questions and doing the chart below, there's one thing that there's a desire that I really want to work on. So for an example, this is again here, this is just an example for worship the Trinity, right there. So when it came to the chart, I kind of put things on 3, and again, follow the things. 1's not true, 2 needs improvement, 3 is most of the time, 4 is constantly true. So as I was going through there, I noticed that one of them I had a 2. So for me, it's like, oh, okay, like I didn't realize that, being honest with myself, being honest before the Lord, that's something that I believe needs work on. So I put a check mark that's one of my desires. Now, again, when you're looking at this, with the desire check mark, you can even put a desire, even if you're a 4, but you're reading it, you're like, man, I really desire that. You could put the desire where you want. And again, it doesn't have to be 1 check mark. It can be 2 or 3, depending on where your desire is. So when it comes to that, I went ahead. Sorry, I'm not used to doing this in the camera. I filled everything out. I put the desire, and then of course I put my score right there. Then when you get to the last page, when you're finished with everything, let me make sure I don't lose all my mismatch on my pages. I then finally kind of have this last part where I put the score and I kind of put the desire that I put a check mark where I have my desire at. So, and then what you will do with all this information is really you just kind of keep everything, but really, if you wrote everything down here, really this is the page you want to keep. So then when we go through the spiritual disciplines, you're able to find out, okay, this is the discipline that really resonates with me. This is the discipline that connects with me, that I really want to improve my faith in Jesus Christ, that I really want to grow in my relationship with the Lord. I want to grow in prayer. I want to grow in worship. I really want to relinquish the false self. So this is so as Sunday, when I'm presenting a discipline, then during that week, that's the discipline we will practice. So for an example, Sunday, I'm going to be talking about the discipline of meditation. And then throughout the week, that is what we are going to practice. And throughout the week, I'm going to have updates. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about more things about how do we meditate, what are some practices, some exercises, so that way you don't feel lost. You have a roadmap to kind of go by. So from there, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you're able to go through this. Attached in this email, I'm actually going to write down the list of what's underneath each acronym. So again, like what are the disciplines under worship the Trinity? So that way, if that's something that's big, then these are the things that you want to focus on. Now, with that being said, for the purpose of this new series, I am going to be going through the classical disciplines. Meaning that these were disciplines that were practiced in the early church. These were disciplines that were practiced by the apostles and the disciples of Jesus's day, even things that were practiced in the Old Testament that we read in our scriptures. So really, those are the main focuses that I'm focusing on. However, from there have been offshoots of modern day disciplines that are actually good and healthy for us to do and really can help us grow in our faith, but I may not be covering them. So, for an example, let's say, I'm going through and you're like, I know one of the things that I really want to practice is, spiritual journaling. And I really want to get into that. I don't know what to do. Those are the times where you can reach out to me and say, hey, Pastor Scott, I know probably spiritual journaling is not one of the disciplines that you're going to cover, but I would like to know more information about that. And then what I will do is I will send you information on that, because I have like a library and a stockpile of different spiritual disciplines, different worksheets, different handouts that I can send to you. So if there's something that you feel like, ooh, I really want to know more about this, then I'll send it to you. And if I don't send it to you, that's because that's one I'm covering. So there's going to be a lot to kind of talk about and discuss when we get into that. So hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully this helps you on your spiritual journey as we grow in our faith in Jesus Christ. And again, if you have any more questions, don't hesitate. Call me, email me, and we'll get right down to it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolute wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.